Hello, you lovely crafty people, and welcome to the last Sweet November Stamps YouTube hop of 2024. It's their last clear stamp release this weekend, and you can stand the chance to win the entire clear stamp release by joining in this hop. So for my card today, I'm going to be using this beautiful sequin mix called Café mix. It's got really cute little coffee cups and coffee grinds, as well as lovely pearls and sequins in it. And I'm going to combine that with the More Than Coffee limited edition stamp set. So I've started off by taking 2 bits of paper. This is the paper that I use to do my alcohol marker colouring on. And I've cut them to 3.5 inches because I'm going to do a little tiny 4x4 inch card. So here I'm just making sure that the stamps that I want to use will actually fit on this little 3.5 inch square. And they will, so that's good. And now I'm just going to make sure that that's right in the corner and ink up my stamp with Memento Tuxedo Black ink. This is my favourite ink for Copic marker colouring with, because it doesn't bleed at all. So I've just done 2 stamps there to get that nice and clear. And I'm going to clean my stamp off, put that all back. And I'm going to move on to cutting out the centre of this cup because I'm going to make it into a shaker card. So here you want to make sure your craft knife is nice and sharp, and I'm just running around the inside of that cup that you can see there. I need to go over some bits a couple of times just to make sure that it has cut out, especially into those corners, nice and neatly. I'm just going round his little paw as well, because I want that to stay in place once I've cut the middle of this cup out. Just gently checking to see where it's still stuck so that I can, again, just go back in with my craft knife. And I try and tidy it up a little bit more here with my craft knife, and then decide that that isn't working as well as I'd like. And as you can see there, it starts to tear slightly at the edges. So I end up giving up and getting my trusty scissors out. By just twisting that paper slightly, I can get those scissors nicely along those edges and just get it as close to those black lines as possible. So now I can just throw away that little bit from in the middle, and I'm going to start my colouring. So I'm just checking here as to where exactly that piece is going to lie in the background, and I'm going to do a tiny little bit of ink blending using ground espresso and brushed corduroy distress oxides, just so that when I put the piece back on top with the stamped image, you'll just see a bit of brown in the background of that coffee cup. And I'm just here just going over a couple of times, just making sure that that blend is nice and neat. So as you can see now here, just gives a bit of a brown background behind the coffee cup. Now I'm going to start doing some colouring, and I do apologise that the colours on my marker lids are not the best anymore and they're tiny. So I will put all of the Copic colours that I've used in the description below. So if you can't see them, they will be there and you can find them in the description. Also in the description, you'll be able to find all of the other people that are taking part in this YouTube hop, so that you can go along to all of their blogs, all of their YouTube videos and watch them all. And by leaving them a comment and by subscribing to their channels, you are in the draw to potentially win the entire clear stamp release from Sweet November Stamps. So here I'm just finishing off. I've just done some very simple Copic colouring for this little mouse. The main feature is going to be the shaker that's going to be in his coffee mug. So I'm not making the colouring too complex on this one, just using a few colours just to give it a little bit of depth and shade, but not too much. And I'm just finishing off his tail, and then I'm going to do this little top of the cup, and I'm going to be using just one colour here just to do the top because I quite like the contrast that it gave. I'm just going to use the W3 that I used to do the darker shadows on his white fur to just fill that in. And just underneath the mouse, I'm also going to just ground him in there with this E43. Just so it looks like he's not just floating. And yeah, here's where I'm just taking the W3 and just doing just the edges of this coffee cup lid. Just again to make it look a little bit more 3D and stand out a little bit more. I'm literally just going to use that one colour just to give a bit of contrast. Now I'm going to put that sentiment on the front there. So I'm just bringing back out my stamp platform. And I'm going to, this time, ink this up using Versafine ink, just because I find that it works a little bit crisper for the sentiments and just keeps them a little bit clearer. And that's essentially going to be the front of my card. So they're just making sure it all still fits together. And I'm going to now take this bit of acetate and cut that to the same size as the bits of card. You could cut a smaller bit if you wanted to, but I'm just keeping it simple and cutting it at, again, 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches square. So as you can see there, that just lines up fully with the 2 bits of card that I've already cut. Now I'm going to be taking this Veli Arts Precision Glue and trying to put this on here to get that acetate stuck on, but I haven't been the best at cleaning that nib, so I just needed to take a pin there and clear it out so that I could get the glue flowing again. I'm going to just clear some of the dust that's got onto that and then fix this in place. I like this Veli Arts glue because it gives you a little bit of wiggle room, but it also dries quite quickly, so you can keep moving and it doesn't have to slow your project down too much. So my little shaker bits I'm going to want really just behind that cup there. So I'm going to start making my frame with this foam tape, this thin foam tape, which nicely fits just around the edges here. But I don't need the shaker bits to go for the entire square because you're only going to see a tiny amount of them through the little coffee cup window that I've created. So I'm just going to create a smaller area inside there, which is going to be the area that I'm actually going to put my shaker bits into. But I'm going to use some more of this foam tape just to strengthen that and make sure that it doesn't get squashed as it's sitting being stored and going to somebody. So that's all the foam tape that I'm going to use on the back there. And now it's time to get out those really cute little sequins. I really love the sequin mixes that Sweet November Stamps are coming out with. They are just so cute. And so here's like the little coffee cup, there's the little percolator, and there's some beans, and there's just all sorts of things in there. Like even little 3D coffee beans in there as well, as you can see there. So I'm just making sure here that all of them are facing the right way so that when you look in the window, you should see the bits that I want you to see, like those little coffee cups with the little faces on. As you can see, there's also a range of different colour pearls in here as well. And again, I'm just trying to make sure that those are all facing the same way. Now, what I didn't notice at this stage is that some of those pearls have turned over. So I'm going to have to sort that out in a minute. But I'm cutting another little bit of acetate just to put straight on the back here, because I found that that's the easiest way to keep everything in place while I line up the front and the back of my card, just to make sure that it all stays in place. So I'm just putting that clear bit on there, and that's where I've just noticed that those pearls are up the wrong way. Just too late. So I'm now peeling that back off just to turn those 2 little pearls over and make sure that you'll see the pearly side of them. So now that's all stuck back down, and I can take off the rest of the backing tape from the foam so that it's all ready to go and be put together properly. Just struggling a little bit with that last bit there. Again, I'm going to use the Veli Arts glue. It just, for me, it gives it a little bit more strength to the foam tape, and also gives me that tiny little bit of wiggle room, whereas the foam tape, the adhesive would just stick quite hard onto it straight away. So now I'm just lining up those 2 squares, which is quite easy to do because they're the same size. And I've noticed I've got a tiny little bit of mess on the corner there, so I'm just going to use a mono sand eraser just to take off the little bits of mess that I've managed to leave in place on there. Now I'm going to put away those leftover sequins. These sequins go a very long way in those packs, and I'm going to cut another layering piece, which I'm going to do at 3 3/4 inches. I'm just using a nice brown to work with the coffee, and again I'm going to be using the Belly Arts glue to just stick that down in place. Then I'm going to stick this all onto a little 4x4 card blank. And that is the card complete. A nice, quick, really cute little shaker card that anyone can do. And I think it gives a really nice little effect, and it's hopefully going to make somebody really smile when they get this. Thank you very, very much for joining us and for watching along. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, not just on my channel, but to all of the people that are taking part in this YouTube hop for your chance to win the entire last clear stamp release of the year by Sweet November Stamps. Thank you again for watching, and have a great rest of the week.